Hello everyone, we have come here today to address a very difficult question you guys have posed to us. Who has reopened better, Disney or Universal? Plus, we just got word that Universal has changed its face mask policy. Come on guys, it's time for a walk and talk. When it comes to reopening the theme parks, the biggest change both Disney and Universal had to make was requiring guests to wear face coverings while visiting the theme parks. From the start, it was Disney that had more stringent rules than Universal regarding face coverings. Universal was a bit more liberal by allowing gaiters and bandanas and such. I know many of you have been anxious for the parks to remove the face covering requirement. Well, Universal has in fact updated their face covering rules. They are limiting the styles that are now allowable. We'll give you a rundown of the new face covering criteria and tell you why we think they're doing this. From now on, face coverings must cover your nose and mouth and be secure under your chin. They must fit snugly against the side of your face. They must be secured with ear loops or secured around your head, either by like elastic or by tying. They must be at least 2-ply. In other words, they must consist of 2 layers. From now on, the following will not be permitted at Universal Orlando. Face coverings with exhaustion valves. So those breathable ones that you kind of get for the gym will not be allowed. Face coverings that are not secured with ear loops or secure around your head will not be allowed. Face coverings that include a mesh material or holes of any kind will not be allowed. Costume masks or veils per Universal's costume guidelines will not be allowed either. If you would like to see a complete list of the new guidelines, visit my Instagram account at @MyRixFlix. And now let me tell you why I think Universal has decided to make these changes to the mask policy. The local government, Orange County, has been doing inspections for Halloween Horror Nights and the 2020 HHN operational procedures. I believe that the changes to these face mask policies are a result of the county's feedback. So these face covering changes are kind of necessary to allow HHN to happen this year. Now, as far as our discussion as who has done the better job reopening, Disney or Universal, now as far as the discussion as who has done it better, who has reopened better, Universal or Disney, these new face mask covering rules by Universal puts it pretty much in the same place as Disney as regard to that subject. Both parks, however, do have places in the park where you are allowed to take off your face mask. Universal, they're called rest zones, and at Disney they are called relaxation stations. And also, if you're not really allowed to walk around sipping a drink or eating, both parks do prefer you pull over, find a table, and have your food or beverage. I would like to mention, as we go through today and we discuss who has reopened better, a lot of the policies and things that we're going to discuss are subject to change at any time. There's no telling when they're going to switch things up and make a change on us. Well, alrighty, we've made it to the next rest zone. Let's step inside. Nikki's already in there. Let's have her add some thoughts to this discussion. I really recommend for you guys to take advantage of all the zones in all the parks where you can take off your mask. Get a break. Yes. Now, Nikki, are there any other differences between the mask policies from Universal and Disney?
Let's see.
Pictures.
Picture quality. Yeah, the photo passes for Disney and Universal are completely different. Disney, you cannot take off your mask at all when a photographer is taking a picture of you.
We told you they're strict there.
Yeah, and Universal, you can put your mask down for your pictures with your photo pass photographer. Neither one of them will hold your phone for you and take a picture. Right. So you're reliant on them to use their cameras.
Now we did use a photo pass person for, we met Baby Raptor Tango.
That's right, we did. And
we took our mask off for that.
That's right.
So there's a couple more differences in the policies between Disney and Universal. So point for Universal. I'm just kidding.
We're not taking points.
I'm not keeping score. Don't worry about that.
No.
This is more informational to let you guys decide.
That's right.
All right, the next little category we need to examine as we're walking is going to be like social distancing in the queues and stuff. Both parks, they all have the markers down when you're in the queues to be 6 feet or more apart.
That's right.
So,
and staggered too,
yes.
So that your party is not right across from another party in a queue.
Right. And now the one difference is when you're in a Universal queue, before you get on a ride, they make you use hand sanitizer.
Right. It is not for debate.
Right.
You must put it on.
Whereas Disney, you have the option because they just have the little stands near the ride entrance.
That's right.
And it's your option to use it. But I will note that Disney has more hand sanitizers after the ride than Universal.
I would agree with that.
Yes. Another thing that Disney uses that Universal is not using would be the plexiglass inside the queues.
Right, and I really like those plexiglass dividers inside the queues. It's not claustrophobic,
right?
And airflow is still, you know, above and below. But I do like the way it's themed toward the queue as well. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
But I think Disney uses those more because Disney queues tend to have more switchbacks than Universal queues.
I would agree.
Now it will be interesting to see if during Halloween Horror Nights, maybe Universal does use some plexiglass because at HHN, lots of switchbacks.
The only thing about the switchbacks is that they're usually inside or covered in some way at Disney, where at HHN, a lot of the switchbacks are open. I know.
It will be interesting to find out because those HHN queues are very, very long. So if you put everyone 6 feet apart, they're gonna be super long. And speaking of sanitation, the ride sanitation, I think is a little different.
It is.
At Universal, we see them like wiping it down like afterwards or spraying it down.
Yes.
Yeah. Like almost like after every turn.
Right, and then exactly. At Disney it's slightly different. They will actually shut down the ride for a little bit, sanitize everything, and then put the ride back up again.
But they'll go multiple turns.
Right, with the ride being, yeah, so like they shut the ride down, sanitize it, run the coaster, let's just say, for a couple turns, and then they'll start putting people on.
Yeah, but then when the people go, they'll keep going and going and on until they shut it down again.
Yes, that's true.
Whereas at Universal, it seems like they'll do it like in between rides.
Right, like in the Mummy in particular is where we've seen it super consistent.
Yeah.
With, you know, as soon as you get off the ride, there's like that, they spray it down before it goes through the station to add more people onto it again.
So both organizations, Disney and Universal, they are sanitizing the rides.
Yeah, doing it slightly different.
Yeah.
But both are, you know, doing a really good job at it.
Yes. Universal is still having live performances, and as you can see, when you gather to see the performance, there are socially distanced markers on the ground for your little party to stand at. And right now, we're gonna catch a little bit of one of the Beat Builders performances. Another thing Universal is doing very well, the live performances.
Absolutely.
They're keeping up with those. They don't do the parade, but they will run a cart, one of the parade carts, through the roads every now and then.
Yes, they will.
Now Disney took a different approach.
Yes, and I really like this approach. At first I was a little skeptical, but I like it.
The cavalcades they're doing.
Yes, the cavalcades are great.
I'll be honest, I think I like cavalcades better than the regular parades they do at Disney.
Yes, is that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree.
But here at Universal, I mean, pretty much every performance that was here before the shutdown is currently running.
Yeah,
so
didn't skip a beat.
It didn't. The other big difference between the two operations since reopening would be that Disney requires you to get a reservation to enter the park, whereas Universal does not. And also Disney no longer offers park hopping, whereas Universal, you can still hop between the parks, islands, and studios.
And you can also take the Hogwarts Express between the two parks. That's available as well.
Yes, you're right. And now with Disney and the reservations, some of the parks do fill up. Like for example, Hollywood Studios seems to be the one that fills up the quickest for Disney, which makes those days unavailable to people.
Right, which can be frustrating.
And so far, there's been no issue with availability at Universal parks.
Right, so Universal gives you a little bit more spontaneity in planning your day.
Yes.
Versus Disney.
Now, one thing we have not been happy with at both parks, either park, Disney or Universal parks, is the ordering of quick service food. Right,
very limited menus, limited places to eat, and also it takes a while.
And well, that's because they are they're not mandating it, but they are strongly pushing using mobile order.
Exactly.
Everyone is, Universal and Disney.
Both parks.
So it's been a little troublesome with quick service. The best experience I've had dining since the reopenings is with getting a reservation at a full service restaurant.
Right, that seems fairly easy.
Yeah.
As long as you pick in one that's open.
Right. But I find to make a reservation at a full service way better than trying to do the mobile order with a quick service.
Yeah, agreed.
One more issue with the mobile ordering is internet access.
Yes, a lot of times we have noticed that the internet will either go down or be inaccessible to be able to use the mobile order.
Yes.
So it can be frustrating when you're on your phone and they're like, no, you have to mobile order, and your phone's not connecting. Now, they do give you options where you can walk up and stand in line, but those are even slower.
Correct. We did have an issue at Pecos Bill at Magic Kingdom that one day.
Right.
You guys enjoy this 15-second break while Nikki and I take a turn on the Mummy. Did you enjoy seeing your Mummy?
I love the Mummy.
Me too, always a good time, but let's keep on walking and talking. One thing I can say both parks are doing a really, really good job at is just cleaning.
That's true.
Those high-touch areas, I see so many people are like workers, team members, and cast members just walking around cleaning any type of thing you may put your hand on.
Exactly, park benches to
the railings.
The railings. The walkway, the moving walkways, I mean...
signs, just anything that people may touch. I see people wiping it down all the time. So both parks, Disney and Universal, doing a really good job with that. So with your experience at Universal, I think it's more universal. What I mean is, like, I think the experience is the same for pass holders and day guests. Whereas Disney, I think the classification that you're at or in may be a little different. For example, DVC members, the Disney Vacation Club members, they may get a better experience than pass holders and day tickets.
In terms of what?
Well, I think because if you are a DVC member and you have in a hotel or a resort for 7 days, you can book 7 days, whereas pass holders can only hold 3 days at a time.
Right, and not just DVC, but anytime you're staying at a Disney hotel, you know, or Disney-owned property. So yeah, they get a little bit more flexibility, I guess, in terms of access and the number of days. Yeah,
getting to do what they want to do, I think.
Okay, I can see
in the parks, yeah, that they want to visit.
Okay, I see what you're saying about that.
Whereas Universal, this feels like there's no restrictions. It's almost as it was before the pandemic.
Now here's the other thing too about Disney is that it's kind of an equal playing field at this point too when it comes to fast passes, because there aren't any anymore.
Right, no more fast passes.
You know, that's kind of an advantage to being a pass holder, you know, is that, or I mean...
for anyone now.
Yes,
because
exactly.
before, people who stayed on resorts could book fast passes way earlier than pass holders or day tickets.
Exactly, so things have changed, you know, quite a bit for Disney in terms of your experience in that way.
Yeah.
But I still think that the magic is there. I still feel that, you know, it's a magical experience at Disney, and it's still highly enjoyable when you're there.
Yeah.
Same thing with Universal too, though. I think that it hasn't lost any of its like awesomeness and you know, positive mojo because of the situation.
It's still epic.
It is.
I had to work in that word, epic.
Yes, you did. Find your woes.
Not quite at the end yet, guys. You're almost there, though. I want to remind you, click that subscribe button and that bell notification button so you'll know when another video is ready for you to view.
Subscribe!
I don't know if you can tell, but the point of this video was not for me to tell you Universal did it better than Disney or Disney did it better than Universal. I wanted to present the major categories of changes and sort of describe and contrast between the two and let you guys make up your own minds. You know, one of these categories, maybe Universal did it better. The other, maybe Disney did it better. The point is, I think I'm happy with both, quite honestly.
Honestly, I would say so too. I'm happy, you know, I mean, with all the rules that we have to follow and that the parks have to follow to stay open, you know, I think they're doing a pretty good job of it.
Yes. I will say, I think Universal is closer to normal than Disney, mainly because of the reservation system and the park hopping situation. But other than that, both organizations, I think, have done a great job. And we are back in a you rest zone. See, I practice what I preach. One last big difference between Disney and Universal, the water parks.
That's right, which is one of my favorites. So Volcano Bay's been open since the start, right? Yeah. Pretty close. And the other water parks at Disney have not, so it's been a total bummer.
Yeah, we miss our water parks.
We sure do.
But other than that, you know, those are the major differences, right?
Yeah.
The major comparisons. You know, I might have missed a few small things, but I think you get the gist of how they're doing things now.
Right, kind of gives you a good idea of what to expect if you haven't been yet.
And like I said, I'm not going to make a decision for you, but share your thoughts in the comments below.
Yeah.
And with all that being said,
hi everybody, I'm Austin from Orlando, and don't miss the magic, don't miss the fun.